Children of Alcoholics. Are you okay? I started the Facebook group 3 months ago as a way to reconnect with kids from my old neighborhood. We'd all grown up on Maple Drive between 1998 and 2010, and every single one of our parents had drinking problems. 12 families, all struggling with the same issue. I thought it would be therapeutic to talk about our shared experiences as adults. The first person to join was Amy, who lived 2 houses down from me. She accepted the invite but never posted anything. Then Kevin joined, and Marcus, and Sophie. Within a week, all 11 of them had joined the group, but nobody was posting. I made the first discussion thread asking everyone to share one positive memory from childhood despite our difficult home lives. The responses I got were strange. Amy wrote, "We shouldn't talk about this. Some things are better left alone." Kevin posted, "Who told you to make this group?" Then he immediately deleted it. Marcus sent me a private message saying, "Stop asking questions. Trust me on this." When I asked what he meant, he blocked me. I called Sophie, who I'd been closest with as kids. She answered but sounded nervous. Before I could explain why I was calling, she whispered, "Are your parents still alive?" I said yes, both of them. She went quiet for a long moment. "Mine too. I haven't spoken to them in 8 years. You should do the same." I asked why, and she hung up. Over the next week, I tried reaching out to the others individually. Most didn't respond. 2 changed their phone numbers. One guy, Derek, agreed to meet me for coffee but never showed up. His girlfriend called me that night saying Derek had a panic attack when he was getting ready to leave and was now in the hospital. That's when I started looking back at our childhoods more carefully. The alcoholism never quite made sense. My parents would drink at exactly 9 p.m. every Thursday and Saturday. Never during the week otherwise. Never at different times. I'd assumed they were just creatures of habit. But then I remembered Kevin's parents drank on the same schedule, and Amy's, and Sophie's. Every Thursday and Saturday at 9 p.m., all 12 families would close their curtains and drink until they passed out. We kids would be sent to our rooms with the doors locked from the outside. I found my old journals from middle school and read through them. I'd written about the locked doors, about hearing strange sounds from downstairs, adult voices that didn't belong to our parents, the smell of something burning that wasn't cigarettes or food. At the time, I'd thought these were just drunk adults being loud and careless. I drove back to Maple Drive for the first time in 15 years. The neighborhood looked different. Half the houses were abandoned. The ones that weren't had bars on the windows and security cameras everywhere. I parked outside my childhood home and saw my parents' car in the driveway. I knocked on the door and my mother answered. She looked shocked to see me. "What are you doing here?" I said I just wanted to visit. She stepped outside and closed the door behind her. "You need to leave, right now, and delete that Facebook group." I asked how she knew about the group. She grabbed my arm hard enough to hurt. "Because they told me. They're watching all of you. They've always been watching." I pulled away from her. "Who's watching us? What are you talking about?" She looked terrified in a way I'd never seen. "The Thursday and Saturday meetings, they never stopped. Your father and I are still part of it. So are all the other parents. And if you keep digging, they'll make you part of it too." I demanded to know what the meetings were really for. She opened her mouth to answer, but then I heard footsteps behind the door. Heavy boots on hardwood. My mother's eyes went wide. "Go, now. Don't ever come back to this street." I ran to my car and drove away. When I got home, there was a folder on my doorstep. Inside were photos. Recent photos of me at work, at the grocery store, at the gym. There was also a single sheet of paper with an address and a time. Tonight at 9 p.m. And that's when I realized why all the kids from Maple Drive were so terrified. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below. I sit in my car outside the address, the engine off, but my hands still gripping the steering wheel. The warehouse looms ahead, a hulking shadow against the night sky. Its windows either boarded up or broken. It's at the edge of the industrial district, where the city gives way to forgotten lots and chain link fences topped with rusted barbed wire. My phone says 8:52 p.m. 8 minutes until whatever is supposed to happen at 9 p.m. 8 minutes to decide if I'm going to walk into what could very well be a trap. The folder with the surveillance photos sits on the passenger seat. I flip it open one more time, scanning the images of myself going about my daily life, completely unaware I was being watched. At the grocery store, reaching for a box of cereal. Pumping gas at the station near my apartment. Leaving the gym with my hair still wet from the shower. This is insane, I whisper to myself, but I know I can't turn back now. Whatever happened on Maple Drive, whatever our parents were really doing on those Thursday and Saturday nights, it wasn't just alcoholism. It was something that still terrifies 11 adults enough to change their phone numbers, block old friends, and have panic attacks at the mere thought of discussing it. At 8:57, I finally open my car door. The night air is cool against my face as I walk toward the warehouse entrance, my footsteps crunching on gravel and broken glass. There's a sliding metal door, partially open, just enough to slip through. My phone vibrates in my pocket. A text from an unknown number. "We see you outside." My heart nearly stops. I spin around, scanning the darkness, but see no one. With trembling hands, I pull the door wider and step inside. The warehouse interior is dimly lit by a few hanging bulbs, creating pools of yellow light in the vast space. And in the center, arranged in a perfect circle, are 11 folding chairs. 10 of them are occupied. I recognize them immediately, despite the years. Amy, her hair now cropped short. Kevin, who's put on weight but has the same nervous eyes. Derek, looking pale and drawn, probably still recovering from his panic attack. Sophie, Marcus, and the others, all the children of Maple Drive, now adults, watching me with expressions ranging from fear to resignation. "You came," Sophie says, standing up. She looks thinner than I remember, with dark circles under her eyes. "I wasn't sure you would." "What is this?" I ask, stepping closer to the circle. "What's going on?" "You shouldn't have come here," Sophie whispers, glancing toward the windows. "But since you're here, you might as well sit down. We don't have much time." I take the empty chair between Derek and Amy. Amy won't meet my eyes. "I created that Facebook group because I thought we could talk about growing up with alcoholic parents," I say. "But that wasn't it, was it? Our parents weren't alcoholics." Derek laughs, a hollow sound that echoes in the warehouse. "No, they definitely weren't alcoholics. The drinking was just for show. A cover story." "A cover for what?" I demand. Kevin rolls up his sleeve and points to a small scar on his shoulder. "They put trackers in us. When we were kids, mine's still there. I had it scanned. That's how they always know where we are. I instinctively touch my own shoulder, feeling for a scar I never noticed or questioned. We've been monitored since childhood, Derek explains, his voice low. The Facebook group triggered an alert in their system. They keep tabs on all of us, making sure we never talk about what happened, making sure we stay isolated from each other. Who is they? I ask. Marcus reaches into his jacket and pulls out a manila envelope. He spreads several photographs on the floor in the center of our circle. The images show figures in black robes, standing in what looks like a basement. Some of the photos are blurry, taken in haste or from hiding. The Thursday people, Marcus says. That's what I called them as a kid. They would come to our neighborhood every Thursday and Saturday night. Our parents would let them in after locking us upstairs. I pick up one of the photos, studying the hooded figures. What did they want? Us, Sophie says simply. They wanted us. Our parents made a deal with them. I don't know all the details, but she stops abruptly as headlights sweep across the warehouse windows, illuminating our faces for a brief moment before plunging us back into shadow. The sound of car engines grows louder, then cuts off. They're here, Kevin says, jumping to his feet. They found us. How? I ask, but I already know the answer. The trackers, the surveillance, the photos left at my doorstep. This was never going to be a simple reunion. Back door, Derek says urgently, grabbing my arm. Now, Sophie is already moving, gathering the photographs. Split up. They can't follow all of us. The sound of car doors slamming outside sends a jolt of panic through the group. Amy grabs my hand, her fingers ice cold. Come with me, she whispers. I know somewhere we can go. As we rush toward the back of the warehouse, I hear Marcus behind us. Meet at the second location in 24 hours. If you don't make it, we'll assume you've been taken. The last thing I see before Amy pulls me through a rusted emergency exit is the warehouse door sliding open, silhouetting several tall figures against the night. I don't see their faces, but I know, somehow, that these aren't strangers. These are the people who have been watching us our entire lives. The people our parents made deals with. The Thursday people, and they've come to collect. We burst through the emergency exit into the cold night air, the metal door banging against the warehouse wall behind us. Amy's hand grips mine tightly as we sprint across the gravel lot toward a chain link fence at the property's edge. This way, she hisses, pulling me toward a gap where the fence has been cut and folded back. We squeeze through, my jacket catching momentarily on the sharp wire before I yank it free. Behind us, shouts echo from the warehouse. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness, sweeping across the lot we just crossed. Amy tugs me down behind an abandoned dumpster just as one of the beams passes overhead. My car's 3 blocks away, she whispers, her breath visible in the night air. They'll be watching yours. I nod, still struggling to process what's happening. Who are they, Amy? What do they want? She shakes her head. Not here. We need to move. We stay low, darting between shadows, taking a winding route through the industrial district until we reach a small blue Honda parked on a dimly lit side street. Amy unlocks it with trembling hands, and we slide inside. She doesn't turn on the headlights until we're 2 streets away. I have a motel room, she says, eyes constantly checking the rearview mirror. Paid cash, fake name. We should be safe there for tonight. The motel is exactly what you'd expect. Faded beige exterior, flickering neon sign, peeling wallpaper in the room. But it's anonymous, and that's what matters right now. Amy double locks the door behind us and draws the curtains tight. I've been staying here for 3 days, she explains, sitting cross-legged on one of the twin beds. Ever since I got the message about the meeting. She reaches under the mattress and pulls out a worn, leather-bound journal. The sight of it sends a jolt through me. You kept yours too? I ask. Amy nods. Mom told me it was for creative writing practice. Said all the neighborhood kids were doing it. I pull my own journal from my backpack. I've carried it with me since I got the photos, some instinct telling me I might need it. They made us document everything without realizing what we were documenting. We spread our journals on the bed between us, flipping through pages of childish handwriting and crude drawings, comparing notes from our parallel childhoods. Look at this, Amy says, pointing to an entry from October 2003. I drew the symbols I saw on my parents' bedroom door. They'd appear every Thursday morning and disappear by Friday. The page shows a series of intricate symbols, circles inside triangles, strange angular letters, patterns that make my eyes hurt when I stare too long. I have something similar, I say, flipping to an entry from the same month. I called them magic signs because they seem to glow in the dark. Amy's face pales. They told us we were imagining things, that we had overactive imaginations. Gaslighting children is remarkably easy, I mutter, continuing to scan the pages. We trusted them completely. At 2 a.m., I call the police from the motel phone. The officer who answers sounds bored as I try to explain about the warehouse meeting, the robed figures, the childhood memories. Sir, it sounds like you and your friends were involved in some kind of role-playing game, he says dismissively. Unless you have evidence of an actual crime. People are disappearing, I insist. We're being followed. There are photographs. Photographs of people in robes aren't illegal, he cuts me off. And adults choosing to go somewhere isn't disappearing. Call back if someone actually commits a crime. The line goes dead. Amy looks at me, unsurprised. They won't help, she says quietly. I tried last year when I first found my tracking implant. The officer asked if I was taking my medication. My phone buzzes with a notification. It's an encrypted message from Sophie. The Maple Collective watches everything. Don't trust technology. Don't trust anyone who wasn't there tonight. I show Amy the message. The Maple Collective. Is that what they call themselves? Amy nods slowly. That's what was in the files Marcus found before. She trails off, unwilling to finish the sentence. We take turns sleeping, 3 hours each while the other keeps watch. When I wake for my shift at 5 a.m., Amy is sitting by the window, peering through a crack in the curtains. All clear so far, she whispers. I head to the bathroom to splash cold water on my face. As I'm drying off, I notice something in the mirror, a small mark behind my right ear that I've never seen before. I lean closer, pushing my hair aside. It's a tiny symbol, no bigger than a dime, tattooed in faint blue ink, the same symbol that appeared in both our childhood journals. Amy, I call out, my voice shaking. Did you know about this? When there's no answer, I step back into the room. Amy's bed is empty. The door is still locked from the inside, the chain's still in place. The bathroom window is too small for an adult to fit through, but Amy is gone. On her pillow lies her phone, screen lit up with with a new message from my parents' number. Stop, or others suffer. This is your only warning. I sink onto the bed, clutching Amy's journal to my chest. My phone rings. It's Derek. Marcus is dead, he says without preamble, his voice hollow. They're saying suicide, but there was a symbol carved into his forehead, the same one from the robes. I touch the mark behind my ear. They're taking us one by one, aren't they? Yes, Derek whispers, and we're next. Kevin and I huddle in his car 3 blocks from the Maple Drive Community Center, watching through a pair of binoculars as the last staff member locks up and drives away. It's 11:42 p.m. according to the dashboard clock, almost midnight, and the building should be empty. Are you sure about this? I ask, my voice barely above a whisper, despite being alone in the car. Kevin lowers the binoculars, his face grim in the dim glow of the streetlights. After what happened to Marcus, after Amy disappeared from a locked room, we're running out of options and people. He's right. In the 24 hours since Amy vanished from our motel room, Sophie has gone dark, and 2 others from our warehouse meeting haven't responded to our encrypted messages. We're being picked off one by one, just as Derek warned. The community center was built after we all moved away, Kevin explains, checking his watch. But Derek found building permits showing a massive underground expansion, way bigger than needed for storage or utilities. And you're sure your parents' files mention this place? Kevin nods. Before I cut contact with them, I found documents about Thursday gatherings at the central facility. This has to be it. We wait another 15 minutes to ensure no one returns, then pull around to the back of the building where the security cameras have a blind spot, something Kevin discovered by hacking into the center's outdated security system. The service entrance has a keypad lock, but Kevin produces a small electronic device he attaches to the panel. 4 years in cybersecurity has some perks, he mutters as the device cycles through combinations. Seconds later, the door clicks open. Inside, the community center looks normal meeting rooms, a small kitchen, bulletin boards covered with neighborhood announcements. But Kevin leads me straight to a maintenance closet at the end of a back hallway. This doesn't appear on any of the building plans, he whispers, shining a penlight along the edges of the door. And look, he points to nearly invisible symbols etched into the doorframe, the same symbols from Amy's journal, the same as the mark behind my ear. The closet contains cleaning supplies, but Kevin pushes them aside to reveal a second door hidden behind shelving. This one has no handle, just a small indentation in the shape of a maple leaf. Bloodlock, Kevin says grimly. Derek figured it out before. He trails off, unwilling to speculate what happened to our friend. It needs DNA from a family member. I press my thumb against the indentation, wincing as a tiny needle pricks my skin. The door slides open silently, revealing a spiral staircase descending into darkness. How deep does this go? I whisper as we start down, our penlight beams barely penetrating the gloom. According to the building plans Derek found, at least 3 levels down. 3 levels down. The staircase seems endless, the air growing colder with each step. The walls transition from drywall to stone, suggesting this section predates the community center above. Finally, we reach the bottom, where a long corridor stretches before us, lined with doors on either side. The first room contains nothing but filing cabinets, dozens of them, meticulously labeled with family names. Kevin finds the drawer with his surname and pulls out a thick folder. Jesus, he breathes, flipping through pages. They've been documenting everything since before I was born. I find my family's folder in another cabinet. Inside are medical records, blood test results, and something labeled contribution schedule. My hands shake as I read the clinical descriptions of procedures performed on me throughout my childhood, procedures I have no memory of. They were harvesting from us, Kevin says, his voice hollow as he reads his own file. Bone marrow extractions every 3 months from age 4 to 16. I scan my own documents, feeling sick. Blood plasma, twice monthly. Specialized white blood cells quarterly. I turn the page and freeze. There's a note here about my unusual blood composition being particularly valuable to the elders. Kevin looks up sharply. Mine says the same thing. Something about regenerative properties and compatibility with the original serum. We move to the next room, which resembles a laboratory. Stainless steel examination tables with restraints. Medical equipment I don't recognize. Refrigeration units humming softly against one wall. Kevin opens one of the refrigerators, revealing neat rows of vials labeled with our names, not just those who met at the warehouse, but all the children who ever lived on Maple Drive. Some of the vials contain blood, others hold cloudy fluids or small tissue samples. They're still collecting, I whisper, noticing dates from just last month on some labels. The third room makes us both stop cold. It's set up like a ritual chamber, a large stone altar in the center, surrounded by 12 ornate chairs arranged in a circle. Ancient-looking symbols cover the walls and floor, some carved directly into the stone, others painted in what looks disturbingly like dried blood. This is where they met, Kevin says. Our parents. Every Thursday and Saturday at 9 p.m. A voice from the doorway makes us both spin around. Not just your parents. Sophie stands there, her face pale in the beam of our flashlights. She looks exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes and a fresh bandage on her forearm. Sophie, we thought they got you too, I say, moving toward her. They did, she says flatly. 3 days ago, I escaped last night. She pulls up her sleeve, revealing multiple injection sites and bruising along her veins. They've been taking more than usual. The elders are getting desperate. What do you mean, the elders? Kevin asks. Sophie walks to a cabinet on the far wall and unlocks it with a key from her pocket. Inside are leather-bound journals dating back decades. The Maple Collective started in the 1942, she explains, pulling out one of the oldest books. My parents told me everything after they sold my blood the last time. Sold your blood? I repeat, horrified. She nods grimly. Monthly, since I was 4. They got extra payments because my blood type is rare. She flips through the journal, showing us faded photographs of people in familiar black robes. The collective began as a longevity experiment. They discovered something, a compound that extends life dramatically, but it requires regular infusions of specific biological materials from young hosts. Kevin's face darkens. That's why they harvested my bone marrow. My parents admitted it before I cut contact. They needed children, Sophie continues. So they created this neighborhood, recruited families willing to participate in exchange for money and promises of extended extended life themselves. Before we can process this revelation, lights suddenly flood the chamber. A hidden door on the opposite wall slides open, and several figures enter, some in the black robes we remember from childhood, others in street clothes. I recognize my parents immediately. "We knew you'd come eventually," my father says, his voice eerily calm. "Children always return home, one way or another." Behind my parents, more robed figures file in, surrounding us completely. There's no escape route. "The Facebook group was a mistake," my mother says, her eyes fixed on me with an expression I can't read, part sadness, part determination. "But perhaps it was inevitable. The blood always calls to blood." "What did you do to us?" I demand, backing toward Kevin and Sophie. My father gestures to the robed figures. "Show them," he commands. One by one, the figures remove their hoods. I gasp, stumbling backward against the altar. Their faces are impossibly ancient, skin like parchment stretched over bone, eyes sunken yet somehow alert. But it's not their age that horrifies me most. It's the recognition. These are the same faces I remember from childhood, the Thursday people who came to our homes. They haven't aged a day in 15 years. If anything, they look younger than in my memories. "The Maple Collective has existed for generations," my father explains. "What began as a scientific pursuit became something more, a path to transcend human limitations. Through stealing from children," Sophie spits out. "Through willing sacrifice," my mother corrects, stepping forward. "We gave you life. Is it so wrong to ask for something in return?" One of the ancient figures approaches me, moving with unnatural grace despite their apparent age. "Your contribution has been particularly valuable," they say, their voice a dry whisper. "Your blood contains markers we haven't seen in decades." My father's expression softens slightly. "Join us willingly," he pleads. "The others fought, and look what happened to them. Marcus couldn't live with what he discovered. Amy is being processed. But you could be part of the inner circle. You could live for centuries. All it costs is your humanity," Sophie says bitterly. My mother turns to her with cold eyes. "Humanity is overrated. Mortality is a disease, and we found the cure." The robed figures move closer, tightening their circle around us. I feel the cold stone of the altar pressing against my back and realize with horror that this is where it happens, where children are strapped down and drained of whatever the elders need, where my parents sacrificed pieces of me for their own gain. "Make your choice," my father says, extending his hand toward me. "Join willingly, or join like the others." I stare at my father's outstretched hand, time seeming to slow as I process our options. The ancient faces of the elders watch hungrily from their circle around us. Kevin's breathing is rapid beside me, and Sophie's eyes dart between the exits, calculating our chances. "I need time to think," I say, my voice steadier than I feel. "This is a lot to process." My father's expression softens slightly. "Of course, it's overwhelming at first." He lowers his hand, turning to the others. "Let's give my child a moment. After all, we've waited this long." The elders exchange glances, but step back slightly. One of them, a woman with silver hair and impossibly smooth skin despite her ancient eyes, speaks in a voice like rustling paper. "The ceremony requires willing participation. Force produces inferior results." My mother approaches, her familiar perfume bringing back flashes of childhood, being tucked into bed before she went downstairs for the grown-up parties on Thursdays and Saturdays. "Sweetheart," she says, reaching to touch my cheek. I force myself not to flinch. "Join us. The others fought because they didn't understand, but you're different. You've always been special." I meet her eyes and see genuine belief there. She truly thinks she's offering me something valuable. Immortality at the cost of my humanity. "I want to understand," I say carefully, "before I decide." I glance at my father. "You said I was valuable. What makes my blood different?" The question seems to please him. He gestures to one of the elders, who produces a tablet and brings up what looks like my medical chart. "Your cellular regeneration rate is exceptional," my father explains. "The markers in your blood, they're compatible with the original serum in ways we haven't seen in decades." I nod slowly, as if considering this great honor, while my hand slides into my pocket where my phone is still recording. "And the others? Marcus? Amy?" "Marcus discovered too much too quickly," my mother says with genuine regret. "He wouldn't listen. Amy is contributing in a different way now." The elder with the tablet approaches, showing me complex charts of my blood work over time. "These samples from when you were 8 show remarkable properties," she says, her ancient finger tracing the screen. "Your bone marrow produces stem cells that accept the binding agent without rejection." I force myself to look interested, asking questions about the process, about the collective's history, about the contributions from other children, all while the recording continues. Kevin catches my eye briefly, understanding dawning on his face. "I think I need to see more," I tell my father. "If I'm going to join, I want to understand everything." "Of course," he says, clearly pleased by my apparent interest. "The archives contain our full history." My father leads me toward another room, with Kevin and Sophie following under guard. The elders move with surprising agility despite their apparent age, their robes whispering against the stone floor. The archive room is massive shelves stretching from floor to ceiling, filled with journals, files, and artifacts. At the center stands a pedestal with an ancient-looking book bound in dark leather. The collective's founding text, my father says reverently, written in 1943, when the first serum was synthesized. While my parents proudly show me their twisted heritage, Kevin edges toward a computer terminal, his movements casual but purposeful. The elders are focused on me, the prize specimen they've been cultivating for years. "How many children have been processed over the years?" I ask, keeping their attention on me. My mother smiles proudly. "Hundreds. The Maple Drive project was just one of many. We've had neighborhoods across the country, and those who weren't compatible?" An uncomfortable silence follows. One of the elders finally answers, "Waste is unfortunate, but necessary for progress." Kevin has reached the terminal and is typing rapidly, his cybersecurity skills allowing him to access the system while appearing to merely examine it. Sophie positions herself to block the view of his actions. "I want to see where the processing happens," I say suddenly. "If I'm going to be part of this, I want to see everything." My request creates the diversion we need. As several elders lead me toward another chamber, Kevin completes his download of the entire membership database to a thumb drive. Sophie slides it into her sock when no one is looking. looking. The processing chamber is a nightmare of medical equipment and restraints. Tubes and collection containers line the walls. The smell of antiseptic barely masks something metallic and organic beneath. This is where we'll begin your initiation, my father says, gesturing to the central table. A simple blood donation first, then more as you become accustomed to the process. I nod, pretending to examine the equipment while searching for an escape route. That's when I notice it, a small ventilation grate near the floor, partially hidden behind a cabinet. Sophie sees it too, her eyes widening slightly in recognition. I've seen enough, I say, turning back to face them. I'm ready to join. The relief on my parents' faces is palpable. My mother actually hugs me, whispering, I knew you'd understand. There's just one thing I need first, I say, pulling away from her embrace. A moment alone with my friends, to say goodbye to my old life. The elders exchange glances, suspicious, but my father intervenes. A reasonable request. We'll prepare the initiation chamber. He turns to the elders. Give them 5 minutes. When they leave, locking the door behind them, we move instantly. There's a tunnel system, Sophie whispers, already pushing the cabinet aside to reveal the ventilation grate. I found it when they brought me here 3 days ago. It connects to the storm drains. Kevin helps her remove the grate while I check that my phone has captured everything. The recording is still going over 40 minutes of confessions about murdered children, harvested organs, and a century-old immortality cult. We have the evidence, I say, showing them the phone. Names, dates, locations, everything. Sophie goes first, slipping into the narrow passage with practiced ease. Kevin follows, his broader shoulders barely fitting through the opening. I go last, pausing only to place my phone, still recording, hidden behind a container where it might continue to capture more evidence. The tunnel is narrow and damp, forcing us to crawl on hands and knees through absolute darkness. Sophie leads with confidence, having memorized the route during her previous escape attempt. After what feels like hours, we emerge into a larger storm drain where we can finally stand. We need to get this to the authorities, Kevin says, patting his pocket where he stored a backup of the membership database on a second drive. Not the local police, I say, remembering their dismissive response to my earlier call. FBI. This crosses state lines, involves multiple kidnappings and murders. Sophie nods grimly. I know someone, a journalist who specializes in cult investigations. She can help get this to the right people. We make our way through the drainage system until we find an exit grate leading to a commercial area several blocks from the community center. The night air has never felt so sweet. 2 days later, I watch from across the street as FBI agents raid the Maple Drive Community Center. Teams in tactical gear pour into the building while others secure the perimeter. The evidence we provided, my recordings, Kevin's database, Sophie's testimony, and our collective medical records was enough to launch a full investigation. My parents are let out in handcuffs, along with several other Maple Drive parents and robed elders. Their faces register shock when they spot me watching from a distance. My father's eyes meet mine briefly, filled with betrayal and something else, fear, perhaps. The immortality they sought now replaced by the prospect of spending their remaining natural lives in prison. The aftermath unfolds over months. 47 arrests across 6 states, charges ranging from kidnapping and assault to murder and human trafficking. Medical examinations reveal all of us. Children have permanent physical changes, unusual blood compositions, cellular abnormalities, surgical scars from procedures we never consented to. 6 months after the raid, the survivors established the Maple Foundation, dedicated to supporting victims of ritual abuse and medical exploitation. We fund it with proceeds from the civil suits against the collective's considerable assets. 1 year later, I visit my parents in prison. They're being held in separate facilities, but their stories have aligned. They still believe they were part of something greater than themselves, something necessary for human evolution. We gave you life, my mother says through the visitation glass. We only wanted to take a little back. You took children's lives, I reply. You just left some of us breathing. My father seems to have aged decades in a single year without his treatments. You'll understand someday, he tells me, when your body starts to fail, when you feel death approaching. I leave without responding. Outside, Sophie is waiting in the car. How was it? She asks as I slide into the passenger seat. They still think they were right. She nods, unsurprised. Mine too. Brainwashing runs deep. We drive in silence for a while before Sophie speaks again. Have you checked on any of the others lately? By others, she means the children of the cult members we identified but who weren't directly involved in the Maple Drive project. Children who might carry the same genetic markers that made us valuable to the collective. 3 families in Portland, I confirm. Kevin's monitoring another group in Chicago. We've become watchdogs of sorts, making sure the next generation doesn't experience what we did. The collective has been dismantled, but we know how cults work. They evolve, rebrand, resurface. Do you think it's really over? Sophie asks as we merge onto the highway. I think about the strange dreams I've been having. Dreams where I hear the elders whispering. About the blood tests showing my cells regenerate faster than they should. About the hunger I sometimes feel that food doesn't satisfy. I don't know. I answer honestly. But this time, we're watching them instead of the other way around.